This portion, Parshat Shemot, marks the very beginning of the next book of the 5 books of Moses. We just completed last week the book of Genesis, and now we're beginning the book of Exodus, which begins with the Parsha called Shemot, which means names. Shemot really talks about Moses being chosen by God to be the one to eventually lead the Jewish people out of Egypt. When we look at who Moses is and what we know about Moses, what we're told about Moses, it seems like Moses is a very unlikely candidate for leadership, for the one to take the Jewish people out of Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let the people go. Number one, it seems as if Moses lacks confidence. When God says to Moses, Moses, you have to go to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Moses says, well, Pharaoh's not going to listen to me. I don't speak very well. He doesn't seem to have the confidence necessary in order to be able to achieve that. And God, in fact, does get upset with Moses for keeping on pushing him away. And also, we find that Moses says about himself that he lacks oratory skills. He doesn't speak so well, and he's worried that he's not going to have the right words to say to Pharaoh. He's not going to be able to articulate himself well. Moses says to God, you've picked the wrong person. Now, as we know, God says, no, Moses, you're definitely the right man, and Moses ends up going, and the rest is history. Moses ends up being the greatest leader we've ever had. But what is it about Moses that allowed him to be the greatest leader we ever had? And why is it that these two things didn't get in his way? I believe that what the Torah really is saying is the opposite is true. The greatest leader is the one that has humility. The greatest leaders are the ones that don't necessarily have the ego which other leaders may have. Moses was a realist. Moses appreciated that he was no one special, and he argued back with God, saying, God, I don't have what it takes, really. And God, the reason why he chose Moses was for exactly that reason. He says to Moses, no, I admire your humility. Your humility is what's going to end up taking you to great places and bring the Jewish people to great places as well. And number two, the fact that Moses didn't have oratory skills was actually to his benefit. That is exactly why God chose Moses. He didn't want a leader that would be able to sway the crowds and be able to move people because of outward passion and charisma. He wanted a leader that would lead the Jewish people through who he was, through being as genuine as he possibly could be. And that was exactly who Moses was. No airs about him. Remained true to who he was. Didn't have any fancy ways of speaking, just spoke truth as it was. He was the man who God knew was the very best in order to be able to speak to Pharaoh and really lead the Jewish people in the best way possible. Rabbi Noah Weinberg of blessed memory used to say, humility is the ultimate charisma. We tend to think of charisma as being something which is outward, talent, passion, and all those things which we think come along with it. But in fact, the greatest way of influencing people is through being genuine, through being who you are, through being humble. And indeed, Moses was able to affect the Jewish people in an incredible way because of his humility and nothing else. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.